$205. Give me my meds.
Sorry, you don't have any benefits. They're $205.
What? I don't have that kind of money.
Sorry, you can't have them.
Another little gem from Camp CUPE and kids' summer fun inside a labor camp, as in labor union. Political camps for kids. Parents paying to have their kids indoctrinated. It's voluntary. Parents actually want this. I'm sorry if you think the word indoctrinate is too harsh, but we're talking about kids as young as 8. So that's exactly what it is, harsh. What does this say about today's summer camps and today's parents? Religious camps have existed for years. Parents always want their kids to enjoy the same hobbies they themselves enjoy. Are these camps just a natural extension of that mentality, or is there something more insidious behind it? Our next guest has been studying summer camps and other recreation programs for years, and he says it's definitely weird. We're joined via Skype by Troy Glover. He's director of the Healthy Communities Research Network at the University of Waterloo. Mr. Glover, thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Would you send your kids to an ideological camp?
Personally, I wouldn't, but I would say that I'm not sure that this camp, although I might view it extreme, is much different from any other recreation program in terms of trying to instill certain values in youth.
Why wouldn't you send kids to an ideological camp? I want you to talk to me from the perspective of how the child evolves or doesn't evolve when experiencing this kind of brainwashing.
Well, I guess I'll step back and I'll just say, again, this is a value orientation, and certainly parents are going to decide to send their kids to programs or camps that fit with their own set of values. Personally, I would not send my child to one of the camps that you had mentioned, largely because, from my perspective, in terms of teaching my children political ideology, I would like more of a balanced perspective. Clearly, the parents who send their children to these sorts of camps are more interested in, as you mentioned, I think it is probably fair to say, indoctrinate their kids into a particular political ideology.
Now, at this particular CUPE camp, there's one scene where an 8-year-old, his name is Noel, the 8-year-old plays the role of a worker, didn't belong to a union, got laid off, doesn't have benefits, can't pay for a particular medication, and ends up in a homeless shelter. Does anyone, not 8, but anyone who's 18, 28, 38, 48, who's done some research into why people end up in homeless shelters, do any of them believe that it's because some folks just weren't lucky enough to have union cards?
That's something you'll have to ask folks who study that. I can speak to you about programming and youth development, and certainly when it comes to developing youth, certainly these camps and programs like them are very powerful venues in which to instill certain values in youth, irrespective of what those values might be.
Mr. Glover, let me just go back to basics here. What motivated you to get interested in this topic, summer camps or camps? What motivated you to get interested in the first place?
Well, for full disclosure, I'm a former camp counselor. I was involved in residential summer camps in Northern Ontario for several years. And frankly, I found it to be a very powerful growth experience for youth and a very positive one. Now, of course, the certain camps that I attended and that I worked at were very different than the ones that you're talking about on your program today.
What were the virtues that you learned as a camper and that you tried to teach as a counselor?
Well, I think, certainly our research has shown that at least the sorts of camps that we've looked at, and again, they're more accredited camps with the Canadian Camping Association, or in Ontario, for instance, the Ontario Camping Association, or some provincial association. And we focused our study on the development of emotional intelligence, social skills, attitudes toward physical activity, personal development and self-confidence. So all of these things are very, I would think that generally speaking, as the general public would see these as very positive things to develop in youth.
Was critical thinking a virtue that was promoted at any of the camps that you were associated with?
I'd like to think so. I mean, certainly, I think that part of the experience, particularly at residential camps where kids are sleeping over, part of the growth experience is associated with connecting with a community of people and trying to live together in a harmonious way. And so that means developing those social skills that enable youth to live together. And I think that does require critical thinking skills in terms of really facing your own beliefs, questioning those beliefs, determining whether you're going to fall prey to peer pressures or if you're going to think independently. So I'd like to think that most camps really do try to teach critical thinking skills.
Mr. Glover, what's your last and final message tonight to parents who are thinking next summer, because they've made their decisions for this summer, I think, for the most part, but thinking next summer about sending their children to an ideological camp? What's your message to those parents?
Well, I guess my message to any parent is that whenever you sign your kid up for a program of any sort, whether it's a camp or a program during the school year, it's not just about the activity. There are certain outcomes that the camp itself wants to advance, and there are certain values that those camps want to instill in those children who attend it. And so certainly if you're sending your child to an ideological camp, whether it's the Tea Party camps in the United States or the CUPE camps here in Canada, I mean, there is clearly an explicit ideological bent that those camps have and that they're going to instill in the youth who attend those camps. So obviously parents need to be very much aware of that and prepared to accept that those are the types of lessons that they want their children to have.
Mr. Glover, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.